Welcome to Yes Genius, a podcast from Epic Marketing that celebrates the power of affirmative thinking. In each episode, we explore the power of saying yes to unexpected opportunities, career changes, even the unknown, and the powerful results.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host for this episode, Dara McBride. Joining me is Kristen Isaac, the founder and CEO of Project Solved. Kristen is a change management consultant who works with businesses and individuals to map out and implement their visions. She has used these skills to build pipeline programs, partner with entrepreneurs to execute their visions, and build revenue producing programming for nonprofits, among other accomplishments. She also has a passion for developing leaders and has coached and trained many leaders over the years. Kristen leads change with empathy and focuses on building sustainable, efficient systems for organizations. Welcome, Kristen.
Thanks, Dara. I appreciate you having me.
I'm so glad you're here. And I've kind of known you for a little bit now, but we've never really had a chance to talk, just the two of us. So I'm excited to get to know you better here.
I am excited. Yeah, we'll probably coming up on 6 months or so soon now, but
Yes,
it feels like it's been much longer than that.
it does. I think you might have that effect on people.
Oh, thank you. You too.
Oh, thank you. Okay, because I'm so excited to get to know you, I just want to dive right in. So we just previewed a little bit of your work with Project Solved. And in my mind, what you do is create aha moments for leaders and teams so that they, uh, can better work together, better work for themselves with each other. Can you tell me about a time when you had a major aha moment yourself? What did that lead you to saying yes to, and why?
So, my major moment that I had was I had to say yes to myself and to my mental health. And so I quit my job and I decided to kind of take my passions on the road. I had always focused a lot of time on making sure that I was doing a lot for others. I attached my value to the world and to others to what I could do for them. And so that aha moment of saying yes to myself meant I had to be a little bit selfish. Um, and it was probably the scariest thing that I've ever done um, because I'm a helper personality. So picking myself was very scary, but so
Wow.
necessary. Yeah.
I was not expecting you to say that going into this call today. I thought maybe you'd say yes about starting your company, but I'm very interested in seeing where this goes. Can you tell me a little bit more about when that happened? How many years ago this was?
So 2022 was the year that June of 2022 was the year that I resigned from my job. Um, but it was kind of a long time coming. And I tend to take on challenges and stick with things longer than I probably should, and that's something I'm working on. But the pandemic hit, and I was working at a hospital, and so the stress of working at a hospital, working in HR eventually, but originally I was managing a practice there. Um, and so burnout was something that I am very familiar with, and it is something that I'm always talking to others about, and not getting to that point because I let myself get way past the burnout point to a point where you kind of just shut down, and I knew that I wasn't going to be a productive individual to myself and even my organization, and so I had to take a pause, and I ended up uh, going out on FMLA and taking a break. And that's kind of where my story starts. So 2022 was a year of a lot of change for me.
Mhm. Yeah, so your background in healthcare, you have a master's of public health, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And were you always interested in the healthcare industry and working in health?
Yeah, so I used to want to go to medical school. So I actually found out in like January 2020 that I didn't get into medical school, but because I'm a planner, at the same time I was going down the healthcare administration side of things. but I realized that through healthcare administration, I could impact thousands of people, patients, and community members. And so medical school was the journey. So I spent most of my career doing community outreach, research, managing practices, all the things, because in my head, the best I could be the best physician for my patients if I knew how the system worked, right? If I knew the front and back of house. So I was like, I need to learn all I can about how a health system runs, and that would allow me to be a better physician. So that's why I probably know I wear a lot of hats and I know how to do a lot of things, because I was intentional about going after experiences and learning opportunities.
Yeah. I'm someone who, like, my original dreamed career path was it got shaped by external factors and what was happening in the industry. And things turned out probably a little or a lot different than I expected, um, when I was in high school and college. But I find I'm so interested in, I get really excited when people talk about one industry inspiring a different industry. And I think of you now, like, so much as in like the entrepreneur space and the leadership space, but you have this incredible perspective because you do have like that healthcare background and this deep knowledge of another industry, and also just thinking about people first, because I think that's what I think of you as, really like a people helper and someone who thinks and like cares deeply about people.
Yeah, that's been always been important to me. I was going to go into primary care so that I can really go and be in the community helping those who need it, and then eventually went to pediatrician because I wanted to change and impact the next generation. So it's easy for me to kind of go into that mode of helping people. I always, it brings me joy to go out and help others. So um, that's a good perspective for you to have, how me being in healthcare has impacted my entrepreneurship journey and kind of the things I've had to do and make happen and after that. So
Okay, so take me back. So you were taking that time to focus on yourself, make sure that you were well and in a good place to move ahead with whatever life direction was next for you. What was that process like? Like, when did you reach a point where you were like, okay, I'm ready now to step into my next chapter?
I'm realizing right now, and I have little butterflies around it, is like, I've never said this, I've never really talked about this story, and now it's recorded. And so this is it's important to share your story though, because I've met plenty of people who have gone through the burnout side of things. So it's just a reflection moment, almost a little bit of anxiety and panic that, oh my gosh, I'm actually talking about this. But I hope that my story helps others. The moment I knew it was time to make a change. Actually, let me go back. I had promised myself that if I got to another space of burnout, probably a year or two prior, that I was going to have to make a significant life change and I couldn't go down that path again. So, unfortunately, I didn't listen to myself and I went down a path of burnout again. And so, essentially, you kind of hit bottom at some point. And um, when you're in that space, you really take the time to reflect. And the pandemic helped a lot of people to reflect on what matters, what doesn't matter, and all the things in between. At the time, I was also the heaviest I had been, weight wise. And so I had to make a change for myself because I was going down a path that, I wasn't happy with. And so I had made the decision at some point that it's time to figure out how to do this on my own. And that was probably back and forth. It wasn't a straightforward decision. I'll be clear about that. It was like, hey, it was around March of 2022 that I was like, okay, I'm severely burnt out right now. Time for a break. And then throughout that period of time, I was talking to my therapist working through some of the challenges with going through, um, doing what's right for me or doing what's right for others, because I've always been focused on others. So that was challenging. So therapy is big. I'm always going to advocate for therapy. You don't have to have something wrong with you to be in therapy, but it's just good to have an outside perspective on your life and just to have a safe space to chat and talk. So therapy really, really helped. I'd actually go on walks by the water. In Delaware, they have this place called Battery Park, and it is, I don't know what body of water is. I'm such a bad Delawarean, but I don't know what body of water is. But I always am able to kind of refill my cup when I'm near water, and so I would go there and walk. And just go for a walk, listen to music, sometimes no headphones, and just listen to nature and just kind of recenter. And eventually I made that decision to say, okay, it's going to be scary, but I've got to find another way. There's got to be a better way. So I resigned and I found a personal trainer who helped me lose 40 plus pounds over about a year and some change. So lots of changes.
That's great. So when you said it wasn't a straightforward path, I think that's so important to talk about, because I know, like me personally, there have been, it's like you take one step forward and then two steps back, but then eventually if you keep doing it, you do get where you need to be to make that decision. Like I've made so many important decisions in my life that I have halfway made, and then eventually I get to the point where I've wholly made them.
And then we have to talk about the influence other people have on your decision making. And at the end of the day, how you have to be the one to feel comfortable with the decision. I had, plenty of people saying, "Are you sure? Are you sure you're going to go out and do this? What's stability look like? Financial stability, all the things." I had just bought a house a year prior. So, yeah. And but I knew that I had to make a change. So making decisions like that can be really challenging when you've got, internally, what decision you have to make, but you have these external forces of people, what society says you should be doing and what you should, how you should be approaching life. That makes that decision not a straightforward thing. And it took probably 2 months or more to make that decision to make a change and go and be an entrepreneur.
Wow. Are you someone who inherently says yes to things? Is that hard or easy for you to do?
It probably depends on the thing, but I like a challenge, so I'll probably say yes to more things um, than most. So yeah.
Do you, with, reflecting on where you are with your journey now, do you think you say no to things more often now, or you dole out your yeses more thoughtfully because you are trying to, you know, keep that perspective of taking care of yourself?
Yes, because boundaries are a real thing, and for someone like me, you come off this way too, Dara, is that we need to set some boundaries. And I am a yes person. So someone needs me, someone's calling me, someone's texting me, they need some help. And I could be completely an empty cup and I'm still going to answer that call and say yes. So I am learning to say no, but it gives me like a little bit of anxiety and it stresses me out a little bit to say no, because I've always been that yes person and not necessarily thinking around all the other things that could happen when saying yes always.
Yeah. I am hopeful that this is a strategy for you, but we had this call on the calendar for like a month, maybe a month and a half, because I invited you. I said, "Are you free, this month?" And you said, "Well, could we try for next month?" Like that would that would be better for me. And you know what? Actually, it ended up being better for me too.
Oh, good. I was nervous. I was like, "Ah," when these types of opportunities come around to just talk with cool people, you're like, oh, I got to make this happen. I've got to find time in my schedule. But I had already packed my January. Like, so that was a lesson for me. I started off 2024 completely wrong and packed my schedule back to back. And so I learned, I was like, okay, what can we move to February that's safe, that's okay. And so I appreciate you for creating a space where you offered February as an option, because I would have taken January.
Yeah. I think that's kind of a strategy for us, yes people, is like, well, maybe you don't say no, but you say like, yes, but can we meet in the middle somewhere?
Yeah, yes, and it's
Yes,
that
and.
improv that I have to shout out Mike Eppenheimer for really bringing this concept to me. It's yes and yes, I'm available, and this is when I can make this happen, and you'll get the best version of me, or the best, the most energy out of me. So we have to think about um, not just saying no, but saying yes to what makes sense and what works for multiple people if possible.
I'm excited that you mentioned improv, and you probably have no idea how this is going to connect, but improv and comedy are going to come up again in this call later.
Awesome.
All right, so I want to ask you a couple specific questions about some of the projects you're involved with. So I think we met through the Spur Impact, and specifically the Emerging Leaders community, well, I'm going to let you tell me about Emerging Leaders and why is it an important program.
So the Emerging Leaders community, lovingly known as the ELC, is a program that is really a pipeline program at the base of it. And so I found a passion for building pipeline programs so here in probably multiple areas, but here in Delaware, a Spur Impacts leader had noticed that there wasn't necessarily a pipeline of talent of emerging leaders. I don't say young professionals because young is subjective. So emerging leaders, you could be, anywhere in your career and want to serve in a leadership capacity in many aspects of your life. And so the Emerging Leaders program allows you to build a foundation to learn the tools needed to join a nonprofit board of directors. And so I kind of built the program based off of my experience as a board member and how I was not confident. I didn't speak up for some time, and I don't feel like I contributed. So my goal was for, the leadership development aspect of this is to build confidence, give them the information they needed in order to thrive and really hit the ground running when they're supporting nonprofits. Nonprofits don't always have all the resources they need. So being able to give them tools and a skill set of a new leader coming in to help grow their organization ready to go is kind of the vision for me.
And then new people coming into an organization, I know change can be scary. Can you tell us, like, is there a way that you encourage people to approach change, or to, set themselves up to be willing to welcome new perspectives?
So I kind of like to have people go in and observe and then ask a lot of questions. So whenever I'm implementing any change, I have a pretty robust discovery and assessment period. I really need to understand the why of why something's happening or how an organization functions. And I think imparting that on leaders going into these new boards is, hey, ask questions, learn as much as you can around these organizations and the nonprofits and the programs that they're doing. Because when you come in to any place, really any part of your life, and you try to provide suggestions when you don't have all the information or data, or haven't analyzed anything, you have less credibility, right? So you want to go in there and really have taken the time to be thoughtful about the questions that you're asking. um, I also have them I connect with as many stakeholders as I can, so you can get the different perspectives of what's going on, and then also realize that there's different personalities in the room. I think this is one of the biggest things too, is that you're going to come across a lot of different personalities when you're implementing change, or even asking questions about implementing change. And you have to realize that there's some that are on one side of the spectrum of, it's always been this way. we're comfortable here, it's safe here, we're not going to change. And then you've got people who are kind of like me, who are like, oh, let's get creative, let's get innovative, and let's kind of shake things up a bit. And going into that, you have to find somewhere in the middle, right? You have to find somewhere in the middle, and that allows you to build up kind of credibility and also trust when you are trying to ask about implementing new changes and asking those hard questions.
Yeah. Can you tell me about some of the organizations that you work with through Project Solved?
So I've got a few different clients that I've been working on, and we haven't even talked about my true passion that I haven't, well, one of my true passions that I haven't shared, but um, I've actually been able to help some entrepreneurs. So I like to think of Project Solved as the way my brain works and the way my team's brain works is that, I can see a vision. You tell me your vision, your goal, and then I can see the steps on how to execute it. So, entrepreneurs are probably one of my favorite groups to work with because they've got this huge vision, they've got this huge idea, but they're not sure about how to get there. So, I've got one person who's building up a coffee business, and she's doing it a little bit different. I can't tell too many details, but she's doing it a little bit different. And I've seen her grow just by us talking and coaching and learning how to kind of implement the different steps of a project, making sure she's set up correctly legally, um, based on my experiences. Because something you'll learn about me too is I struggled as I was going through my entrepreneurship journey, and I would like to knock that part out of it as much as possible for any other entrepreneurs. So I struggled, so hopefully you don't have to. So I'm going to give you everything I learned and did wrong, and hopefully you can just like not have to deal with that.
Was
So
there a certain aspect that was a struggle for you? Or was it just, there are just many little hills and valleys within the journey to become an entrepreneur?
so I think I'll start with my challenges. I have trouble asking for help, and because I'm the helper usually doesn't ask for help, and so I didn't know what I didn't know when I started my business. And so some of the legal aspects of it, as far as making sure I set it up right as an LLC and, registered agent, so many different things there. And then one part for me is finding my niche. And this was conversations I had back in like August of 2022 is like, Kristen, you have to find a specialization. You have to stay in one lane. You can't do all these things. And I found that hard for me because, like you heard earlier, I specifically went into the world trying to learn how to do a bunch of different things so I could be that kind of jack of many trades and things. And so when someone told me I had to do that, I was trying to fit myself into a box of not sharing that, hey, I could be kind of your one stop shop for a lot of different things. So understanding what my services were going to be, the setting up of the business, and then target population. So I always tell people is like I started my business in probably August of 2022, but I would say I actually really started it and built confidence in maybe September of last year, to be honest. So it took time for me to really feel confident in where I was sitting and where I was going. Um,
There was something else you were about to say before I asked about your challenges.
Other clients. So I love helping nonprofits. I've grown up and built my career in nonprofits, so I, understand how to do that. And then another client of mine was a group that brought me in to help with their employee resource groups. So when I was at my previous employer, I managed their whole employee resource group program, which pulls in all the things that I like to do is leadership development because there are volunteer leaders who help run these employee resource groups and programming, process improvement, streamlining. So I built a lot of workflows and process optimization into that program. And then I got to talk to these leaders who were able to implement so many different innovative and creative programs, and being able to foster an environment for them to build programs and help impact other employees in different ways was exciting. So there's a mix of different clients, but all of them, my goal is really to help them get from point vision to, execution.
Mhm. Yeah. So you mentioned you have your true passion. Can you tell me what that is?
I really love ERGs, employee resource groups, because it's developing leaders. And when you get to, I think a common thread I'm going to notice in all my clients actually is probably the passion is leadership development. And so in the program we talked about with ELC, in even developing the entrepreneurs and their vision, and the employee resource groups, that common thread is being able to do and focus on leadership development and giving them the tools they need to thrive. So that's exciting for me.
Okay. In prepping for this call, I did learn what an ERG was.
Oh,
I was
good.
not familiar with that. I was like, ERG. What's that? I thought that you might bring up being a doula as your
I
true
forgot about
passion.
that.
One
I
more facet to you.
Yeah, so I became a certified birth doula in January 2021, and I've now helped deliver about 3 babies. And so that is a passion of mine. I forget there. See, I forget I have a lot of different things that I have um, jumped into. I haven't been able to focus a lot more time on the doula side of the passion. So, because for me, I want to be able to do that right. If I'm going to support and advocate for mothers, I need to make sure that I have things in order in Project Solved and, streamlined all that in order to really be able to kind of stop what I'm doing and support these mothers. So, um, that is a passion of mine, and I'm super excited about it because public health and maternal and child health is super important to me. And so, yes, I forgot about that.
You said you were worried about, or not worried, but you recognized you had to find a focus when you were, launching your own business. But I think, like, in a way, you are able to tie all these threads together and have many different passions when they're all kind of braided up into the leadership. I'm mixing metaphors here, but they're under the leadership umbrella. Their threads all coming together. So ultimately, for you, I see it as coming back to leadership and helping people.
I like how you did that there. You just wrapped it in a nice little present and added a bow. Yeah,
Yes,
that that
a
gave me like
present.
little butterflies. Like, yeah, you're right. It's if I tie it all together, that's kind of what my North Star is figuring out a way to develop leaders in the many, many ways you can develop and support leaders. So thank you for that.
Okay. All right, we're going to do a couple rapid fire questions and sort of head toward wrapping up our episode in a fun way. So I'm going to ask you a few. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Introvert or extrovert?
Ah, ambivert.
Yeah. Okay.
I cheated. Sorry.
Name one subject you'd like to learn more about.
Empathy.
What is the music that you put on to find your center?
R&B and soul.
Okay. Um, if you were building a leadership sandwich, what would be the ingredients?
Communication / transparency, empathy, and wow, what's in the middle of my sandwich? Those are my ends. And then training and process improvement type of stuff in the middle.
Okay. Do you have a hidden talent?
I don't think so, but I like to sing in the shower. I'm pretty
That's
good.
good. That counts. Can you name one thing you wish you enjoyed more?
Resting.
All right. Well, thank you for that. So we're going to move into our final section of the podcast, which is Chatbot Says. And we know that AI is only as smart as the people using it. So we asked ChatGPT for assistance promoting your next leadership class. And we know that injecting humor into leadership course titles can make the learning experience more enjoyable. So I'm going to read a few, and I would like you to tell me which of these courses are you most likely to lead.
Okay.
Okay, so leadership, the sitcom edition. Join Kristen for a day of laughter as we turn leadership challenges into hilarious sitcom scenarios. Leading should be funnier than a sitcom. And then we have Dance Moves for Diverse Leaders, a funky workshop. Unleash your inner dance floor diva as we cha cha charge into leadership development. No rhythm required. Um, the Zen of Chaos, leadership in a nutshell, or a peanut shell. Embrace the chaos, find your inner peanut, and discover the absurdly Zen side of leadership. Laughter is the best stress relief. Do we have any winners yet?
I think so. It's between sitcom and Zen of Chaos, but I think I'm going to go with sitcom because I think, it'll show the real side of leadership, right? And just all the different personalities, all the different challenges and things that come across, when you're working with leaders, when you're building leaders, all of that. So that would be a fun thing to pull together. Case studies, role playing, all that jazz is going to be a nice one. That's funny. I like those.
I can see it. I remember I did take a management course where we learned through episodes of The Office. So
I love The
I
Office.
think I think there's something there for you.
I love The Office. See, we have to bond on that one too.
Okay. Well, Kristen, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we wrap it up, is there anything that you'd like to close with? Final words of advice for someone encountering an unexpected opportunity?
I'd have to say, go ahead and do it scared. Shift your mindset, um, and give yourself grace along the way. Um, it's okay to be scared when you're doing things. It's uncomfortable. Make sure you're recognizing that it's okay to be vulnerable, and build up your support system. Your support system is going to be key and crucial as you go on any type of journey, and just make sure you have the right people around you.
Okay. Well, thank you again. If people would like to find more about you or Project Solved, what should they do?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Kristen Isaac. Isaac is the last name. Kristen is Kristen. And then, or you can visit projectsolve.org and reach out to me through there.
Okay. All right. Thanks again, Kristen. I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you so much, Dara. I appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to Yes Genius, a podcast from Epic Marketing. Join us again to hear more unique stories. In the meantime, find us on social media or online at epicmc2.com. Don't miss out. Remember to follow or subscribe wherever you get your genius content.